This is Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast sharing tips on raising amazing teenagers. We are both certified life coaches that have worked with teenagers as coaches, mentors, and teachers. We are sharing what we have found to work best when dealing with teens and tough issues.
This is Let's Talk Teens with Abbi and Cheree, episode 64, How to Be an Askable Parent.
Cheree, I love this term of being an askable parent. I have to say that kind of carefully. um, but I just love this idea of asking myself, okay, am I approachable? Can my youth ask me questions? And the way that you respond to your youth's questions will really shape whether they feel like you are askable. And I think how you know, am I doing this well? Is does my youth come up and ask me questions, right? And so here are some things that you can do to be an askable parent for your youth. And the very first is that you want to respect your child's questions. They might ask you the most random questions. They might ask you questions that you thought they already knew. They might ask you big questions that you didn't even know that they knew what that term was or what that word was. But whenever they ask us a question, we want to show respect for it. And how we do that is the way that we respond. We don't go, oh, yeah, ask your dad about that. Or, oh my gosh, let's not talk about that. Or, oh, wow, honey, I can't believe you said that word, right? That tells your youth and your teen, oh, what you just asked was weird or inappropriate or shameful in whatever way, right? And I get we're not trying to do that as a parent. We just maybe were caught off guard. But we want to have a couple phrases that we have ready when our youth asks us a question. Things like, oh, that's a great question. Or, yes, let me tell you about that. Or, yes, hey, when this is done, or come over here with me and I'll tell you all about that, right? So we want some phrases for when our youth ask us a question because we want to be respectful to other questions, regardless of its mom, why is the sky blue? Or what is sex? Or anything in between.
I love that. I love the preparing ahead of time with some question or way to respond and, questions back to them even. I was thinking when you were talking about how a lot of times when we push them away and we're not open to their questions, it's because of the emotions we're feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're feeling insecure or we're feeling desperate or we're feeling overwhelmed or we're feeling a lot of fear towards their questions. And so I think as a parent, I love that, like thinking, okay, how do I want to keep this going or have them ask questions or keep it going? And I think because I just think our emotions have so much to do with it, coming to that when knowing that when our teens ask questions, to come at it with curiosity. And I wonder if that would be like a helpful emotion is just be really curious when they come to ask us questions and know like, okay, this is how I can respond or ask questions back or talk to them, but also say, okay, if I can tell I'm feeling a lot of emotions, maybe I can go to curiosity and ask more questions. Okay, help me understand that more, or what do you want to know? And kind of turn it back to them and with a curiosity emotion instead of a fear emotion. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yes. No, totally. Like, I think sometimes, especially, I'm thinking of you probably younger teens, maybe they don't know what a certain term is, or maybe even they're like, what does this word mean, mom, right? And maybe they're with friends or maybe with their siblings, right? And so sometimes our response is, oh, don't say that, or oh, hey, I'll tell you about that later, right? Because we're like, oh, little ears are here, or I don't want my child's friend to hear I taught him about this, right? So staying calm, staying curious, just like you're saying, and just going, you know what? Let me tell you about that later. Or I love your idea of, hey, yes, I want to tell you about that. Did that come up today? Or, where did where'd that start for you of where you heard that or something like that? Or even sometimes my kids will ask me things I'm like, I've never heard of that. What is that? Like asking them and being like, what do you know about that? Because I've never heard about 6, 7 and what that means, right? Or, things like that. So, having that respect, that curiosity about their questions. The second thing is to stay on topic, especially for, big topics such as like body stuff, relationship stuff, um, swear words, all those kind of things in between. Just stay on topic. And we want to keep it short. We don't want to turn these into lectures. And guess what? That is my secret talent. I can turn anything into a church lesson or a lecture. And so I have to fight that. And I have to go, what is the most concise and short answer that I can give that answers their question and they feel like, hey, mom's going to respond to me and it's not going to turn into a lecture. This too goes in hand with we don't have to make these questions a big deal. Like if your kid comes up and says, "What's this?" or "Whoa, why that movie use this word?" You can just say, "Hey, you know what? That's a slang word for this." Right? And we don't have to maybe even elaborate sometimes. We can just keep it short and concise.
Oh, me too on the lectures that can go so long. I do the same thing. But I love what you're talking about. It's just making it super neutral, of just super easy of okay, concise, quick. It doesn't mean it need to be a big deal.
Yeah, and I think that goes with these other steps of, our third one is, hey, we want to be direct on tough answers, right? We don't want to beat around the bush. We want to say exactly, or I love, Cheree, AI is my best buddy. I love AI. I put so many questions into AI. And I think a cool thing you could do, especially if you're like, I don't know how to respond to this, let's be like, let's ask AI. Let's type this in. Let's see what it says, and then let's see what I say, right? Let's see how they're different. And being direct, I feel like that really helps me to be direct when I can say, oh, okay, this is how this is actually defined, or this is what that means. And then be clear and accurate. So we sometimes want to maybe not use direct words with our youth, or maybe we want to beat around the bush or anything like that. And we just want to be clear and accurate so that our kid is getting accurate information because guess what? I think it's a privilege that they've asked us because they can Google anything. They can ask AI just like how I love to ask AI,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So I think it's such a privilege that our youth actually comes to us and asks us questions, and we need to look at that and go, I want to like the word that comes to my mind is honor, but I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I want to honor that request that they've come to me and they've asked me this and realize that is so awesome. So even if I get it wrong, even if I have to tell my youth, yeah, let me think about that for just a second, but if we're clear and we're precise and we keep it nice and short and we respect their questions, they're going to keep coming back to you for answers. And they might even Google something and then come to you and ask some things.
Oh, I love what you're saying so much. So, our last episode, we talked about unlearning, and one of my unlearnings is exactly what you're talking about because Um, I think I had a hard time just being direct and just being really open with our kids sometimes when they were younger. And here's a funny story with that. So maybe I've shared it. I don't know if I have. I'm sorry, listeners. But when our one of our younger kids was in preschool, they um, well, we had always just with our boys, we would just say like when we were talking body parts, instead of saying penis, we would say your manhood. We called their
Yes,
manhood.
yes, yes.
Have I shared this? Have I shared
No,
this?
no, no, no.
Oh, okay. And anyway, so one of our little kids was in preschool and it was fall and they were making this little squirrel and, there was some acorns on it. And he says to the preschool teacher, yeah, the teacher was stapling the acorn on the squirrel and he's like, stop, you can't staple it on his manhood. And the preschool teacher was laughing so hard. But anyway, as my kids gotten older, they kind of have like been like, Mom, seriously? And as they're, married and some of them have kids and talking about how important it is just to use the correct terms. And
Hmm.
instead of doing that, like calling, manhood instead. So I think it is so interesting as you're talking about, like, I do think our teens, they really just need direct. They really need correct what understanding and what is and being able to be open about it instead of having to beat around the bush like I did, right? And I love your idea of using AI because it's going to be direct and simple and okay, this is comfortable. My kids can come to me and I can be open with them and they can be open with me because I'm not afraid of body part terms or any conversation they have with me, whether they talk to me about some hot, heated topics in the world today, like I am going to be a safe place for them, and none of those things scare me. And I think I've learned a lot from that because I haven't always been that way. And I hope I am now.
Oh, I love that street. That brought up this is a horrible like example of this as well. Um, I was teaching seminary and we had passed out cards for something and I can't remember. And this shows my novice. I was like it was like my first year teaching and I gathered back up the cards and I didn't go through them to double check the answers. I just repassed them out because it was one of those activities of you write a question and then somebody's going to respond to you for the class, right? A more seasoned teacher would know, I better censor those, right? And there was a term on there which even now I'm like, oh man, that's not the best word. So one student calls me over, they're like, Sister Winslow, I don't get this question. I don't know what this is. And I was like, me either. I don't know what that is, right? And so then I was like, let me Google it, right? And so I Googled it. I looked it up. It is not a great term. It refers to like making out with somebody, like all those kind of things. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know what this term was, right? And so I think that's a great example of your youth is probably going to ask you things like, Mom, what's this? And I think it's powerful as a parent to go, I don't know. I've never heard of that in my life. Like, let's Google it together, right? And I think that would be a great conversation of being like, oh, wow, it's this. I had no idea. Be like, who said that to you today? Right. But not in a way of like, oh my gosh, where did you hear that term? Right. Or where are your friends doing this? Right. Of just being like, oh my goodness, did somebody say that today at school? And they're going to be like, yeah, it came up in Sister Winslow's seminary class. Right. And as a parent, you're going to be so freaked out. Right. All that is it welcomes conversation and we just want to be unflappable, right? I know we've talked about that on other podcast episodes, but that is my word as a parent is I want to be unflappable. My kid tells me I've cut my knee open, unflappable. Okay, let's call the doctor, right? Let's go take care of this. My kid says a term that I'm like, oh my gosh, now my radar's on of where have you heard this? I'm unflappable, right? We ask questions, we're curious. So hopefully, parents, that this helps you out, right? I feel like being an askable parent is one of the best skills that you can be with your child because then they're going to come to you when it matters and they've got questions and maybe even they've messed up, right? And they're going to be able to come to mom and dad.
Yes, because you're holding space for them and nothing has really permanently gone wrong. Like they know that they can trust you with whatever, and you're not going to freak out and you're not going to push them away. You're just going to be that open, safe space for them.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Teens with Cheree Murdock and Abbi Winslow. If you are looking for more tips to help your teenager, here's where you can find us. You can find Cheree Murdock on Instagram at Cheree Murdock Coaching or on her website, ChereeMurdock.com. You can find me, Abbi, on Instagram as Abbi Winslow or on my website, AbbiWinslow.com. Please rate and review our podcast and share with a fellow parent. Thanks for listening.